Hi, I'm going to walk you through getting started with Zotero. So the first place to start is at the research guide for reference managers and the tab for Zotero. And so that's libguides.lib.rochester.edu/reference manager/Zotero. And what you'll see is first here is a link right to Zotero.org. We'll talk about that in a moment. A couple of helpful videos, and then this really helpful getting started with Zotero Google Doc. That's this one. So before you get started, open your browser that you usually use, close all the tabs, close your unneeded software, update your browser. It works really well with Chrome, Firefox, and Safari. There's some glitches that happen at different times, but that's kind of standard for all citation management systems. Restart your laptop. This can be really helpful in case you've got any updates. And then here's that first introduction we showed. You're going to go to Zotero.org, and then you're going to download the program, and you're also going to download the Zotero connector. So what that looks like here is you're going to click the download button. You're going to download. It recognizes I'm on a Windows. It recognizes that I'm using Chrome. What that's going to do is you can see down here in my taskbar, I've got Zotero that lives on my hard drive, my laptop, my desktop. There's also a version that lives in the cloud. This version that lives on my desktop, my laptop, talks to the cloud. There's also one part that lives in the browser, so that's here. What this will do is when you're on the page of a website, a video, an article, a book, it will recognize what it is, and you can automatically pull it into your Zotero library. I'm just going to call it a Zotero library. It's really a database. You're creating a database that's made up of documents and then about information about those documents. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to register for an account. You can also, from here, register for a free account. You'll want to use your rochester.edu email if you have it, because that'll give you a little more storage in the cloud. Don't use the same password you have for your NetID. Zotero is not owned by University of Rochester. We do support Zotero. We do subscribe. It's free, though, to anyone. So just be sure not to ever use your password for your NetID with anything else other than your rochester.edu account. So I'm going to log in. So we've downloaded it onto our desktop. Now this is what it looks like in the cloud. You can see that I've got a lot of things in my library. This is the whole bunch of them. I can, by clicking on title, it will resort everything by title or by creator or by date. You can see I've created different folders. So if you're a doc student, or a student at all, you might want to have different chapters. Maybe you have sections for comp, so you can have these subfolders if you like. One thing that some students like to do is to create a folder where they sort of dump things in and sort later. That's not my preferred method. I feel like that's kicking the can of work down the road, but it's okay. You do you. So you can see that I've got this folder here. Some things are duplicates. There are ways to just go through and clear out your duplicates. So that's no problem. One of the things you can see is this little icon shows it's a website or a web page. This one shows it's an article. This one shows it's a book. This one shows it's a dissertation. And then I think this one is it's an interview. So, and then I might even have here we have blog posts and we've got video. So what this little icon here, it changes depending on what website you're on. It will recognize if something is a video and pull it in so you can accurately cite a video. So what this library looks like on my desktop, and just for a record, I was clicking down here, is this. It's a little uglier, but you can see all of the same folders. You can see my sort folder. Here I've got my comp folder, I've got a subfolder, and then this is the example that I'm going to use. So one of the things I want to talk about is how do I get articles in? So there's two ways to do this. There's actually three ways. The really slow way is to just type everything in. That's the last resort. One of the easiest ways is if you already have PDFs on your desktop. So hold on just a moment while I show you. So I have these 4 or 5 PDFs on my desktop. And what I'm going to do is make it so that I can see both at the same time. And I'm just going to take these two to begin with. And oops. All right, I'm going to go with my example so you can see what happens. I'm going to pull those in. And what it's going to do is it's going to read the metadata, so the embedded data in those PDFs. And as it does it, you can see that instead of being called Park 2021, Torres Rodriguez, it's pulled in both the title of the article and it's pulled everything in. And we can check over here on the side under the info button. We can see, and what I think is a really good practice is just double check that it looks like all the information you need. Is it a journal? Does it have the volume to issue the pages? If there's a DOI, that's really nice too. And so you can see it's pulled in the right information for both of these. You can always fix that as you go through. When you see that we've got a couple, let's see what happens when I bring 3 more in. Now, the most important thing when you're dragging it in is not to have it highlight over something else, or it'll try to attach it to those articles. So you want to have it in the white space down here. So it's thinking about it, it's doing its work. Our 164 PDF has changed to Kagan, our out.pdf has changed to Blount. Oh, but this out parentheses 1, no matching references. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to look at it. You see it's opened in a new tab. Looks like it's a dissertation. So whenever I pulled in this dissertation, it didn't come with the right kind of metadata underneath. So there's 2 things we can do. We can either go back and try to find if there's a better spot that has information, or I can instead create a new one, a new item. We're going to check more, because in this case it's a dissertation, which they call a thesis. And so what I would do is I would type everything in here, copying, pasting, and then I would add this as an attachment. So there are ways to do it if the metadata comes in badly. That's just if you ever want to, you can start something from scratch and then attach the article as you go through, attach the attachment to it when you're through. So that's one way to add things. Another way to add things is here when I'm at the library. So one of the things we can do is, you can see I have an article that I like. One thing I would suggest is always going as close to the source of the document, who published it, as close as you can. So here at the library, you can see it thinks it's a book. It's going to pull in the wrong data. Our library system doesn't work as well as it should with pulling in the information. So I clicked on the link to get through to where it looks like it's from the publisher's page. And now you can see up here, it recognizes it's an article because it changed to look like an article. When I click on this, it's going to add it to the last folder I had highlighted, and it's pulling it in, and it's pulling in the full text if it can. Sometimes it can't pull in the full text, in which case you might want to download it and add it. So if we come back to my library and we go to my example, and I've already forgotten, it's called Language Teachers. Here it is, it's right here. Now if I go to my desktop version, remember we've got 2, it's already pulled it in. If it hasn't, you can always click on this sync with Zotero.org, that's syncing with the web version. And you can see it's pulled in everything correctly. And if we wanted to, did it pull in? Yeah, it pulled in a snapshot. What I would want to do is attach instead. So the way we would add an attachment is here. We can add attachment, and we could add that PDF right there. So that's one thing you can do. You can also ask it to find it. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. And it found it for us. So that's nice. So that's a really nice way to pull things in. So we can pull things in through the web. We can pull things in by dragging PDFs. And we can also, if you need to, you can just click a new item and pick your item and fill in the information by hand. I wouldn't suggest doing this if you don't have to. One thing you might do is, if you're at Google Scholar, you might do language learning. And if there were a whole bunch that you were interested in, you see how it's changed to a folder, you can pick the ones that you want. And so I'm just going to pick these 2 as an example. Again, what I found is sometimes going from not where it's been published, so that sort of home site where it lives, sometimes the information isn't as good. But let's check out, see what we just pulled in. This is my problem, I always forget. Language and language learning theory. Language and language learning theory. So you see it didn't pull in a publication, volume, issue, pages. So that's problematic. So one of the things I would want to do is instead maybe go and find the actual article. And in this case, it doesn't look like we actually have the article, but my guess is closer to it, this information is going to be a little closer. So there's a few different ways to bring things in. The other great thing about Zotero is that you can use it to cite as you write. And so I'm going to show you that as well. So here is my paper that I'm working on. This is a paper about education. The work on English language learners shows fill in the blank something. So this is where usually you might type Jones 2020 and say, oh, I'm going to figure out what the right citation is later, because in terms of APA citation, that's really nice. It's easy to do. But it makes it hard if you've ever tried to do all the citations at the last minute, or you're not exactly sure which Jones you were thinking about, stuff like that. So what we're going to do instead is, you can see in Microsoft Word, when we've downloaded the Microsoft Word plugin, we're going to click on Zotero. It's going to have you log in if you're not logged in. We are. So I'm going to add a citation. I'm going to choose APA 7th. And there's a couple things we can do. We can look at the classic view, which will give us a few more things, but I'm just going to say, find something that mentions language. So here's this. Oh, this is the one we just brought in that's terrible, right? We know that that has bad information. So that's a reason to fix things, but this looks pretty good. So pull that in. I'm going to hit enter, and that's nice. It's added it in. Maybe we add one more thing. Another person wrote something. And we're going to add another citation. Maybe this one, I'll pull this, is about academic publishing. I hit enter. That's nice. And this isn't too surprising, though. You could do this pretty well on your own. One thing you might do is say instead of saying another person, you really want it to read a little more naturally. Curry and Lillis wrote something. You wouldn't want it to say Curry and Lillis here. So what you're going to do is you are going to edit that. You're going to highlight it, because this is a bit of code. You're going to edit that citation. You're going to click on it. And now what you're going to say is omit that author, because we've already got the authors there. And so when I've done that and I hit enter, now it has the appropriate Curry and Lillis. Oops, I should move this to 2018. Sorry, because it should go right next to it. Wrote something. Now, as you're going along, I'm just going to add one more thing. One more. I'm going to add a citation. I'm going to add something about happiness. Sure. And you have to keep your punctuation correctly outside of the citation. If you've got all the information correctly, Zotero will automatically give you the appropriate, if there's more than one author and things like that, if there's multiple authors. So you might be saying, I mean, that's really lovely, but why would I really want to do that? I can type this in. So the reason is I've only got 3 things here, but if I click edit bibliography, it's going to put it all in there. Now imagine you've just written a really long thing. You can get them all in. And if I decide, for example, that this isn't actually the article that I want, I can get rid of it. And then when I refresh up here in the corner, that one's going to go away. So it's a way of keeping everything that you've cited in your references, and all your references are things you've cited. So that's a very brief introduction to Zotero. Give it a try. Remember, it's at zotero.org. And we've got a lot of help for you with this getting started with Zotero. I hope to talk to you soon.